Welcome to the Flood Channel. Today we'll travel to a working rain gauge near Bootleg Canyon in Boulder City, learn how you can determine if your home is in the path of a flash flood, and discover how engineers solved a flood of problems during construction. All this and more today on the Flood Channel. Thank you for joining us on the Flood Channel. I'm your host, Jacob Sanders. There's good news for residents who live near Cheyenne High School in the Northwest Valley. Homes and businesses there are now better protected against flooding thanks to one of the Regional Flood Control District's latest construction projects that captures stormwater and diverts it underground. Like some of our other projects, the name for this one is interestingly long. Officially, it's the Gowan Outfall Alexander Road Decatur to Simmons project. It's a storm drain project beneath Alexander Road from here at Decatur Boulevard all the way down to Simmons Street.
We're right here. All around here is a lot of residential. We have rec center, there's schools, and so just right in the middle here, City of Las Vegas boundary is actually at Decatur. So we've got the City of Las Vegas, and then once we cross the intersection on the other side, it's North Las Vegas. And so typical of many projects, it's a developed area, residential, commercial, we've got a little bit of everything. But the idea with this project and a lot of our projects is to protect residences, property, people from flooding.
But the project presented some challenges. The first was a familiar one, weather. Over the nearly 2-year-long project, crews had to keep an eye on the sky. That was to make sure construction efforts weren't hampered by storms dumping excessive amounts of water into the incomplete drainage structures.
We're watching the weather during construction pretty constantly, and we have great staff back in our office that'll notify our teams and let them know that we've got a storm coming. And so as best we can, we try to prepare for that. And so they're able to kind of take some of their equipment out of the trench, or sometimes there's some sandbags or other things that they can divert some water.
With any storm, the water does what it naturally does. Finds the lowest level moving downhill. It also means that lots of sediment, trash, and foreign objects are washed into the construction site.
And so there's some cleanup and work, but generally these guys do a fantastic job. They're able to clean up pretty quickly after, and within hours or a day or so, they're able to just be right back where they were once it dries out.
Other challenges that came up during this project include dealing with existing utilities and unstable soil types that were hidden underground. Crews had to find creative solutions. Specifically, there were many water and sewer lines that had to be protected or avoided.
The storm drain on this project gets as big as 24 feet wide by 7 feet high.
That's big enough to drive 2 trucks through side by side. That's really big.
The biggest kind of complication was there's a large water line, a 36-inch, pretty significant size water line from Allen all the way down to Simmons. And so before the project could even get going with the storm drain, we had to relocate that large storm drain and basically shift it about 10 or 15 feet south and redo that whole water line before we could start on the storm drain. And then another challenge we had as we got up near the end of the project, when we were digging and opening up those trenches, there were certain parts of the underground soil and material that were unstable. And so the trench would open up, and we envisioned doing if it was a 10-foot wide or a 20-foot wide trench, all of a sudden it's starting to get wider and wider because the material's just kind of sloughing off. And so we have to redo those trenches, stabilize them, and make it so it's stable for construction.
Things got worse. The nation's supply chain system became a significant problem. The type of required waterline pipe was not available. So the actual start of the project was completely dependent on when we could get that pipe. It turned out to be 6 months later than expected. And this project also created a unique opportunity for the construction stakeholder team to partner with nearby community members.
It just so happens that the downstream starting point of this project at Alexander and Simmons is the same corner where Cheyenne High School is. And when we were looking at starting construction, our construction started in August, I believe, or at least that portion of when we were going to start building that storm drain right in front of the school. So we knew that literally the first day of school was going to be one of our most active construction zones right there at the downstream end.
Addressing this need required a widespread outreach effort by the contractor, the district, the city of Las Vegas, and Cheyenne High School. It turned out the south entrance into the school's parking lot would have to be closed on the first day of school. That was no small task.
There were maps, there was information that was sent out to the parents, and then we had a lot of workers out that first day just watching for where the high school students were walking, making sure they were safe. They had set up some jersey barriers or some concrete rail to kind of protect the walking zone. The only thing we noticed, some of the, there's some dirt and some mud, so those nice new shoes some of those students had that first day of school got a little dirty that first day. So we tried to fix that up, make sure that their white shoes were taken care of better on the second day of that construction.
At last, the traffic detours, the noise, and the neighborhood inconvenience are at an end. The streets are closed up, resurfaced, and the neighborhood is much safer from potential flooding.
This project didn't come to be out of any specific event, but it was just part of our master plan. So as the district, we've got on my wall, we've got an entire map showing the entire valley, and we've looked at the master plan for the last 20, 30 years. And this is one piece of the plan. And so we knew that this was an area prone to flooding.
With a lot of adapting and finesse, this project is now complete and operating. It connects with other sections of the flood control network previously completed. This 1.6-mile stretch of storm drain will soon be extended uphill to Rancho, adding another piece of infrastructure that will help protect people and property in the Las Vegas Valley. You might be surprised to learn there's a little-known tool available at your fingertips that can help you better understand real-time flooding risks anywhere in Clark County. On our website, regionalflood.org, you can check out the Rainfall and Weather Map. This map displays data received by hundreds of rain gauges and weather stations the district operates across Clark County and beyond. Every one of those stations requires regular maintenance to ensure you can always access the latest rainfall information.
The Flood Threat Recognition System is the official name of our data collection system, and we have at the moment 217 gauges throughout Clark County. We do have 2 in Lincoln County and 1 in Arizona that are upstream of Mesquite, so we give the city of Mesquite some protection. On our website, we have what we call the gauge map, which is a visual depiction of Clark County with all of our gauges. And by left-clicking on a point, you can view the data. If you right-click on a particular point, one of the options is you can view a still picture of the basin, which also describes when it was installed.
Craig and our team of hydrologists regularly inspect every district rain gauge in the county, from urban areas to desert canyons and ridges, to make sure they report accurately. If you've lived in southern Nevada for long, you have probably noticed our large earthen detention basins, but you may not have noticed the small buildings located alongside many of them.
To my right is the stilling well. This does all the monitoring of rainfall data, and it also monitors the depth of the water that's being impounded in the basin. So every time the water level rises, the shaft encoder has an attached float that rises as the water in the basin rises, so we know what the change of elevation of the water is at any given time. And the tipping bucket will collect rainfall and transmit its data to our office and to the National Weather Service. So it's a multifunction facility, and it's run by solar power. There's a 26 amp hour battery that's connected to a 5-watt solar panel, which keeps it continually charged.
The network of gauges tells us where it's raining, when it's raining, and how hard it's raining. If it's raining really hard, the Weather Service may issue a flash flood warning based on the rate of rainfall reported by a gauge. Now let's take a deeper look into the inner workings of these stations.
And this is the inside of a stilling well at Veterans Detention Basin. To the left is a tipping bucket, which monitors rainfall, and data gets sent to the data logger that we'll present shortly. But in the background, in addition to collecting rainfall data, is something called the shaft encoder, which monitors depth of impoundment within the detention basin, so we know how deep the water is. And signals from both equipment get sent to this data logger, which translates the electromagnetic pulses to a digital format. And the digital signal gets sent to the radio, which is a 5-watt radio, which transmits to our office and to the National Weather Service.
Typical stations have a mast on top with two devices affixed. One is a 5-watt solar panel that charges an internal battery. The other is an antenna that transmits the data. You can also see the funnel on top of the stilling well, which is what collects the rainwater.
To simulate what happens when a tipping bucket tips when it's full of water, it's got that 1 millimeter of rainfall collected. The teeter-totter mechanism flips, and that chirping sound you just heard is the actual data packet being transmitted. And with the laptop, I can see what data value is being transmitted, and it should be the data value I'm expecting. If there are any radio issues and I'm seeing a data value that I'm not expecting, that could indicate something's wrong with the equipment, and then I have to troubleshoot from there.
You can see these cups inside the tipping bucket. They hold 1 millimeter of rainfall, or roughly 0.04 inches. It flows down the funnel, through the hose to the smaller funnel, and fills a cup in the tipping bucket. Once it's at capacity, it tips, hence the name. The cycle repeats as long as it's still raining. That's how we monitor and measure rainfall. The detention basin was built at a carefully selected location. A detention basin works like a bathtub. It's designed to collect water during a rainstorm faster than it is released from the basin. This causes the basin to fill up with water during the storm. After the storm, the basin drains slowly, increasing safety downstream by reducing the velocity of the released water.
At Veterans Detention Basin, it was selected to contain flow that would be coming off of Red Mountain behind me. And without this basin, anytime there would be heavy runoff from an extreme rain event, it would endanger the highway behind us. The basin allows for the collection of the runoff in large quantities to be released slowly so the highway doesn't get inundated nor anything downhill of this facility.
The Bootleg Canyon Detention Basin and the Veterans Detention Basin protect the western area of Boulder City from water coming in from the surrounding mountains, with the goal of containing the water and releasing it at a single point gradually over time. Interestingly, for our intrepid hydrologists, there can be comedic surprises in the field.
We know that rodents have occupied the stilling well in the past. Usually it's a mouse, and we've nicknamed him Suicide Mouse, jokingly, because when we open the door, sometimes he'll just stare at us face to face, saying, "What are you looking at?" But of course, he's got self-preservation instincts, so after he gets over the initial shock of seeing our face, first thing he'll do is jump out, and we have to dodge him as he makes his escape, so hence the nickname. But he comes around periodically. He's almost a regular resident of the facility.
Thanks to Craig for the tour today, and to the entire hydrology team that maintains our rain and weather gauges. Remember, even though rainfall can be infrequent in southern Nevada, sporadic storms can happen anytime and can appear quickly. The Flood Threat Recognition System gives you one more tool you can use to check on the real-time weather and rainfall across the county. The rainfall and weather map is available 24/7 on our website, regionalflood.org.
The annual Paws in the Park event was again a huge success this year. Many in the community brought their dogs out to enjoy beautiful weather and take advantage of a day filled with fun, entertainment, and pet-friendly activities.
So wanted to support all of the local adoption organizations and come and check out the local treats and all sorts of, local dog activities and dog people and just the atmosphere.
The event took place at Desert Breeze Park, and what some may not know or realize, this park also serves as the lake's detention basin to collect and control rainwater. The Clark County Regional Flood Control District has 105 detention basins throughout the valley. 16 of these basins serve as dual-use facilities. Parks and recreation facilities like soccer fields are built inside the basins to be used when the basins are not being utilized to collect stormwater.
What the detention basin does is that it collects the water and it allows it to fill up to a certain elevation, a safe elevation that is specifically designed to detain the water. And it'll release the water at a regulated rate.
The Clark County Regional Flood Control District has a booth here at the event to distribute material on flood safety and educate the public on what the district does to protect our valley from flooding. And today, with so many furry friends walking around, it's a good time to share a few important reminders with pet owners.
This Paws in the Park event has been a great turnout for us. We've had a wonderful opportunity to talk to so many pet owners about stormwater quality and making sure that they keep their pets' waste out of the storm drains and disposing of that waste properly, simply because it ends up at Lake Mead, and that is our primary source of drinking water.
It's important we all do our part to keep our water source as clean as possible, and quite a few furry friends made it to the event to take advantage of all the unique pet-focused activities.
So Betty is a 5.5-month-old Alaskan Klekai, which is a breed out of Whittier, Alaska, started in the 1970s. She, if you can see, is a Golden Knights fan. And she's also wearing the shirt because she just recently got heart surgery. So she has stitches and staples in her side, so the shirt keeps her from ripping those out.
It's been a fun event held here on the soccer fields in the Lakes Detention Basin, where there's an action plan in place to get people out of this area during a rainfall event. The soccer fields were benched above the expected water level of smaller, more frequent storms. In larger storms, once the water depths reach approximately 9 feet, it will start inundating the soccer fields. In 2007, a large thunderstorm dropped several inches of rain near the Lakes Detention Basin at Desert Breeze Park. The detention basin collected more than 13 feet of water. The soccer fields were underwater, but when it's not raining, the basin is dry and can be used for recreation and fun family events.
Here's Todd Myers, a civil engineer with the district who works on major flood facility design and building projects. Today's question is from Heather. Heather, what do you want to know?
If I look out the window and there's been a storm and there's water running down the road, should I worry about what's going to happen?
Depends on a number of things. If you're in a flood-prone area and your community has a history of flooding and you see a couple of inches of water coming down your street, well, maybe you should be concerned. You should ask a couple of questions like, what's the forecast today? Are we expecting really heavy rain? Are we expecting this rain to go on for a long time? Have I been flooded before? Have I had water come in through my driveway? Have I had water actually come into my house? Do I have sandbags or some measure to protect myself and my property from being flooded?
Well, what about if the water is over the curb and coming into the driveway?
So, if I'm in one of these areas and I have no history of flooding in my neighborhood or something like that, I would look at it and go, well, I'm not terribly concerned if I see water running down my street. More than likely, it's going to run down your street and out of your neighborhood into a larger street and hopefully be collected into a storm drain facility or a open channel or even a natural channel. Now, keep in mind that if you get 5 or 6 inches of water running down your street, which is curb height, it might not be a real concern, but you want to stay out of it. The kids shouldn't be playing in that water. It's full of very nasty stuff, oils and debris and trash and no telling what else is in that water. It's not clean, it's not sanitary. So just stay out of that, stay out of the water until the water goes away.
Thank you, Todd. Is there anything else that's important for Southern Nevadans to know about flooding?
Here in Las Vegas, you've probably noticed that storms come pretty fast and furious sometimes. More than likely, most of the storms will be here and gone pretty fast. So it's a lot easier just to say, all right, well, I'm gonna stay inside for a minute and let this water go away before you get back out on your streets.
Thank you, Todd. Remember, you can always visit our website at regionalflood.org and click the button on the homepage that says Rainfall and Weather Map to see the latest rainfall data for your neighborhood or anywhere in Clark County.
This is not what people typically envision when they think about the desert, but here in our area we know this can be very common during our summer monsoon season from July through September. Flooding is dangerous. 6 inches of water can sweep you off your feet. The Flood Control District has done a stellar job of directing our floods to Lake Mead, with 110 detention basins and 713 miles of channels and storm drains. But there's still some work to be done. So, meanwhile, we all need to remember to steer clear of flood channels and flooded streets when storms hit. Last year, floods took 3 lives.
All 3 were preventable. One was a 13-year-old boy, you may recall, that was inner tubing down a street and wound up getting pinned under a vehicle and he drowned. 2 others were people experiencing homelessness that were sleeping in or living in our system, and the floods, they're very flashy. The floods caught them off guard and they wound up getting swept downstream and they were both killed. And so it just shows, it's a tragic reminder that over and over again this is happening. We need to be careful. We need to avoid these flood control systems.
And some of these channels are designed to flow through normally dry park and recreation areas. So it's important to remember, especially for your children and teens, to avoid these areas during episodes of stormy weather. We also tend to see a lot of people playing in the floodwater, and I want to remind everybody that that water is filthy. There is mud, trash, debris, and other toxins in that water. So please, by all means, stay out of the floodwater. It simply is not safe.
Let's go, come on! Don't you do it. It's just a little water in the road. The light is green, there's places to go. It's just a little water in the road. The flash flood grows, how deep, who knows? The other cars made it. Watch and learn, let me show you how it goes. Loco!
Ooh la la!
Yep.
All right, one more time.
We'll do it together.
1, 2, 3.
The Clark County Regional Flood Control District breaks ground on a new multi-million-dollar detention basin.
This has been a long time coming, this particular detention basin, and so we are excited to see it actually get under construction.
The new basin will be constructed near Owens Avenue and Los Feliz Boulevard and will help keep raging floodwater coming off Frenchman Mountain from seriously impacting residents below. The basin is named after Jim McGoy, who is a former Nevada State Assemblyman and considered one of the founding fathers of the Clark County Regional Flood Control District.
We need to recognize people like him because we want more people to do what he's done. And he's made a difference in thousands of people's lives. The quality of life in Las Vegas is better because of his efforts.
After several flooding deaths in the 1980s, McGoy wrote and sponsored legislation that shaped the framework for the creation of a regional flood control district.
Leaders like Jim McGoy knew Clark County would grow, and thanks to their foresight, the Clark County Flood Control District has constructed hundreds of miles of flood channels and over 100 detention basins that serve to protect residents from devastating flooding.
I remember working with him day after day in that legislative session. He's a good guy. He was in government for the right reason, and now we're seeing fruits of his efforts years afterwards.
On behalf of the Clark County Commission, we are naming today Jim McGoy Day in Clark County.
I know I'm surprised and very happy. One of the nicest days of my life.
Jim McGoy, members of his family, local leaders, and people from the community all joined to celebrate the groundbreaking of the new detention basin.
It feels good to honor these people that have helped us get to where we are today.
Since the creation of the Regional Flood Control District in 1986, approximately 684 miles of channels, storm drains, and 106 detention basins have been constructed to safely move stormwater and urban water runoff through communities to protect nearly 2.3 million people who call Las Vegas home. Construction will begin on the new detention basin this summer and will take about a year to complete.
Here is Chief Engineer and General Manager Steve Parrish with a recap of this year's flash flood season and updates on construction projects across the valley.
Hello, thank you for watching this episode of the Flood Channel. My name is Stephen Parrish. I'm the General Manager and Chief Engineer of the Clark County Regional Flood Control District. Just wanted to mention a few things as we sign off here. First, I wanted to note that we just got to flash flood season. That is July, August, and September. Every year we expect a lot of rainfall in those 3 months, but it can rain any time of the year. So
keep that in mind as we go into the winter months, that we still can get flooding in Las Vegas, and to always be aware of water always wins, and don't drive or walk through flooded areas, and just be careful out there when you're traveling around the city during rain events. I wanted to touch on a couple of projects that either wrapped up construction or about to start. The first is the Charleston Storm Drain Project. This is one of the bigger projects that we funded here in Clark County. It is a big storm drain that was put in Charleston between Maryland Parkway and Boulder Highway. We also had a lateral that went north from Charleston up to Stewart. So it's designed to collect a bunch of water that's coming out of the downtown area in Las Vegas. And there's lots of water that runs down Charleston, as we know, during storm events. So this facility will help collect that water and get it underground and help the traveling public get around that area. I know the businesses and people that travel along that corridor have been dealing with the construction for a while now. It's a difficult project to build. They were really big box culverts we put in there, 30 tons. Each section was 30 tons, so it's hard to get that big equipment and move that type of material around when you're building a project like this. So we know it was difficult. We tried to keep access to all the businesses and keep the traveling public moving through the corridor, but we experienced that pain, and now we're going to enjoy the fruits of that labor and be able to enjoy the fact that this facility is in the ground and functioning and helping to keep people safe from flooding. There's a couple other projects that are just kicking off. The Jim McGoy Detention Basin is located up on the east side of the valley, up near the base of Frenchman Mountain. This basin is designed to catch water that's coming down out of Frenchman Mountain, collect it and hold it, and then release it at a much lower flow rate to reduce the damages downstream. And so it's protecting homes and schools that are in that area downstream of that detention basin. It's about a $22 million project. It just started in August, and so we're expecting it to wrap up around November of 2025. Another project that's getting ready to kick off is the Charleston Storm Drain between Essex and Lindell, which is basically Valley View, between Valley View and Jones. That facility is another $21 million project. It's another big storm drain that's going in Charleston. This is west of I-15, and so it's collecting a lot of water that's coming down the Charleston corridor, again affecting the traveling public that goes through that area. And we'll get that water underground and try to improve the resiliency to flooding of those businesses and people that travel along that corridor as well. So Charleston's seeing a lot of love from the Regional Flood Control District. We're doing a lot of work on Charleston, which is a major thoroughfare right through the middle of town. Needed a lot of work to be done. We got another phase of the Charleston project that'll extend from Maryland to Maine that'll be starting in a few months. But eventually we'll have all these projects in, and all the storm drain will be done. It'll be underground, kind of out of sight, out of mind. It'll be collecting water for generations to come as rainfall events occur in Clark County.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Flood Channel. You can learn more about the Regional Flood Control District on our website, and we hope you'll follow us on social media. We'll see you next time.